doctrine stops it. They're held back by a doctrinaire position. If they step beyond that doctrine, they feel they're in some sort of heretical, ideological trouble. Whatever church, whether it's your church or another church. But if you're a free person without being under the authority of a doctrine, then you can let your mind move freely if you feel you should. And at a university we're supposed to. That's what we're supposed to be, free. If we didn't have free inquiry at a university, we'd be back with putting Galileo in prison, you know, for saying that what we all now accept as obvious, that the earth moved around the sun and the sun didn't move around the earth, you know. And yet he was silenced for 10 years of his life and put under house arrest for having adopted that position of the previous person who said it, Copernicus. So, so we'd all be like that if we couldn't think freely. We have to be able to think freely. So maybe a time is coming when we'll get out from under some of this doctrine too. And that things will swing more over towards a fair picture, which I think is in the text. You say, what, is it in the text? It's in the early church fathers. James was elected leader of the early church. We read that from 3 different sources in the early church fathers. Even someone as rabid as Eusebius cannot fail to record it. And the Pseudo-Clementine literature, of course, is not even a question. James is over Peter, and we even have a letter or a presentation of Peter saying that if you don't go according to James's doctrine, you are not a proper apostle. And that's in, so I don't accept the Pseudo-Clementines. Well, it's as good as this material here, so I don't see why you should or shouldn't. That's up to you. But we have a lot of evidence. So here, we have a Peter who's even more extreme than the Peter in Galatians. So Acts is not always reliable. Certainly now, the tablecloth vision is the kind of vision that is not in the realm of history. Most would agree with that. More in the realm of literature. Anyone feel that, you know, that's an unfair statement? I mean, you can criticize it, I don't mind, but I mean, literature, okay, lots of things are literary. This is good. If you've got the James book, I have that quote from, because I'd left it out of my original, so I stuck it in here someplace. I want to mark up your book, but that quote from the Pseudo-Clementine homilies, Peter speaking, "Our Lord and Prophet who has sent us," Jesus being the true prophet, "declared us that the evil one," the devil I guess, "that disputed with him 40 days, but failed to prevail against him, promised he would send apostles from among his subjects to deceive them, deceiving apostles. Therefore, above all, remember to shun any apostle, teacher," this is Peter speaking, "or prophet, who does not accurately compare his teaching with that of James, the brother of my Lord, and this even if he comes to you with recommendations." So, you can say that's a lie, but there is data attesting to that, and we have to take that into consideration. So, the Pseudo-Clementines say that you're not even allowed to teach if you can't compare your doctrines with James's. And we don't even know in California who James is before some of us start agitating on his behalf. And if you go to your churches, whatever church you are, and you start talking about him, some will be aware of the present debates, which we've helped to initiate, but others will, who's he, right? Isn't that true? You go and you say to someone, oh, about James' brothers, you say, who's that person?
Many people in academia don't know who James is.
Come on, you're kidding me. Well, I'm sure in the other departments. You mean in this field too, or just general?
Dead Sea Scrolls.
Well, that's the problem. That's why they can't do scroll studies, because they don't know the history of the early church. They don't know what the disputes were in the early church. How can someone in rabbinic studies do scroll studies when he's totally ignorant of the early church problems?
I have first-hand knowledge.
Oh, you went to the University of Chicago and you found that out, huh? And that's why he went back to his delivery route and got out from under some of these academic people that he felt were too heavy. This is Dennis Walker. He used to be like you guys 10 years ago, or longer actually. In any case, Dennis first went out with us to the digs back in 1989 or so. This boring you, Dennis, or
No, not at all.
Okay, so,
Breath of fresh air.
okay, so you come back and have some. So in any case, whatever we want to say, Peter is either a swing figure or he's totally, you know, hosed to the old line. And then we get this vision here that is really what I would consider to be the Paulinization of Peter. Because what Peter basically learns is that not to make distinctions between pure and impure. But he doesn't learn it in his lifetime from Jesus. Now, Acts agrees with that. The Gospels don't agree with that. The Gospels say Jesus taught these things. You say, well, where do you, well, you know I'm a prejudiced person, so obviously I hold to the side that doesn't take the Gospel side, but I mean, I don't mean to be conceived of as being preconceived. It's just that life has taught me that the gospel presentation are not always reliable, and now people will say, well, that flies totally in the face of my faith, and I understand that. And the problem is that the other evidence that I've begun to encounter led me to take a less optimistic view of the Gospels than I might used to have had. And now other people who are younger or haven't looked at other evidence have a more optimistic view, and that's fair enough until you see the other evidence. And this is a case in point. If the Gospels have it right, then Peter is an ignoramus, and I don't consider him an ignoramus. So there's something wrong, and you'll have to decide for yourself. We've done it, we've harped enough on that. Okay, so the point of the whole vision is so Peter can do what? Enter the house of a Roman centurion. Do you think anyone, from the little we've talked in this class about the Dead Sea Scrolls, would ever have entered the house of a Roman centurion from the Dead Sea Scrolls, say? I don't think that would be even conceivable in their mind. That would be about the last, so you say, I know it's hard to understand Palestine without, but you see, the scrolls that are like a capsule in the caves, a time capsule, come back and given us a view of the ideological position of a lot of these maybe more extreme groups, maybe groups, as I've said, somewhat like the Ayatollah Khomeini, maybe even. But in any case, they are the extreme groups. And they are messianic too, and they're interested in the coming of the Messiah, or whether he came already or not is not clear. But they're very messianic, and they're very extreme, and they're very purity-minded, and their new covenant is based on separating holy from profane. That's exactly what they say. The new covenant in the land of Damascus